How My Best Brings Out the Best in Others. First published in 1919, the classic story of the wonderful Wizard of Oz presents the readers the story of a young girl named Dorothy. Dorothy goes beyond the rainbow, where she meets characters such as the Tin Woodsman, who's looking for her heart, and the Cowardly Lion, who seeks courage. When asked the question, how my best brings out the best in others, I know I offer compassion and courage, especially to young Chin students who have recently made their journey here to America. Having arrived only 11 years ago, I still remember those who were just like the Tin Woodsman and the Cowardly Lion. Resource-rich and fertile, Burma was once regarded as the rice bowl of Asia. Under military rule since 1962, its fortunes have steadily declined, and today it is one of the world's least developed and least free countries in the world. It is also the source of one of the world's most protracted Chin refugee crises. In the early 2000s, only a lucky few amount of Chin, or rather Burmese refugees, have sought refuge here in the United States. One of these fortunate refugees is my father. Unlike others, my father came to America before I was even born and started to sustain a life in preparation for my mother, my brother, and me to share. To be honest, adjusting to life here in America was gruesome for me. I was suddenly forced to assimilate into American culture, and for a 6-year-old, that adjustment was absolutely overwhelming. I did not speak English. I had no friends. I did not understand what my teachers were teaching me in class. Everywhere I looked, I found only paved roads filled with fast-moving cars. I missed the comfort of my 20-square-foot hut made of branches and twigs. American apartment life was absolutely foreign to me. However, with the support of my family, life here in America eventually became much easier to embrace. My family taught me that I would never have to face this battle alone. As I began to grow up, I noticed an increase in the Chin population in my town, and I realized how difficult it would be for these new Chin immigrants to adjust to a whole new culture. I then decided to become actively involved in developing new Chin organizations to offer aid to these students. My best would help bring out their best. As my family taught me with compassion, I began teaching these students with tenderness and patience. I let them know that I understood the hardships they were facing. I once faced them myself. By teaching them with compassion, many were able to bring out their full potential and became successful because they became much more resilient and more And since acts of kindness and generosity create a ripple effect, refugees newer than I, too, were able to impact and inspire those around them as well. Although I easily taught them about sympathy and empathy, teaching them how to be courageous was a far more difficult task. For instance, these young students and their families had to simultaneously travel through a jungle while carrying their sick relatives on their backs as they evaded authorities. I simply boarded a plane. My courage was tiny in comparison to what these newcomers possessed. Eventually, I witnessed those who were afraid to answer a simple question in front of their peers. Most froze up in front of strangers, and yet later they told me how they wished they could become braver. As a result, they soon ended up reminding me of the Cowardly Lion because they were so guilt-ridden and ashamed of their own fear, anxiety, and perceived cowardice that they cannot recognize how brave they already were. I then resorted to creating numerous activities to help increase their courage. We played games of self-actualization. These made-up events helped to identify the real nature and definition of bravery. Soon, these students realized that their courage was always inside of them all along, just like the bravery of the lion. After a few months, many of these students were constantly answering questions in their classes and became more socially active by joining clubs, creating friendships, and even participating in academic competitions. For instance, one of the students I used to mentor now actively participates in her school's debate team. Having the opportunity to inspire others, especially these young, fully capable Chin students, was absolutely incredible for me, as the involvement brought out my best. I may have taught these students to always try their best, but they have also made me realize my love for educating and inspiring others. Although these students always possess these qualities, I was subsequently able to tip them over the edge, which enabled them to unleash the best of their abilities. Indeed, I am no wizard, but I know now that even without ruby red slippers, if we give our best, we get the best in return.